Welcome to Municipal Affairs. I'm Christopher Brown. Across the province of Manitoba, municipalities are remaining steadfast in their commitment to fostering safe and healthy communities for all residents. Yet, the issue of improperly discarded sharps and needles has emerged as a significant challenge, posing critical risks to public safety and placing undue strain on local resources. While municipalities have shown remarkable resilience in addressing the growing concern, it is clear that stronger support and collaboration with provincial authorities are urgently needed to tackle the problem effectively. Current practices for managing discarded sharps continue to stretch municipal resources thin, forcing local governments to divert funding and attention away from other essential priorities. Despite the efforts of the Province of Manitoba and its health authorities through initiatives like the Manitoba Harm Reduction Networks, gaps in the system persist. These gaps highlight the need for renewed partnerships and coordinated actions to ensure safer, more sustainable solutions. Now, by working together to prioritize safety, sustainability, and shared responsibility, municipalities can develop effective strategies for sharp disposal, enhance public education, and strengthen harm reduction practices. Today, we are honored to hear from Swan River Mayor Lance Jacobson, a dedicated advocate leading the charge in addressing this critical issue at next week's Association of Manitoba Municipalities convention in Winnipeg. Are you passionate about local governance and municipal issues? Do you believe in the power of community-driven conversations? Then join us at the Cross Border Network, where we bring together voices from across Canada to shine a spotlight on the challenges and the triumphs of our municipalities. But we need your support to keep the conversation going. Visit crossborderinterviews.ca today to show your support by backing the show monthly or making a one-time annual donation. Your contribution will help us grow and expand our reach, bringing important stories to even more listeners across the nation. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can amplify the voices of local communities. Together, we can shape a brighter future for all. Cross Border Network, where local matters and your support counts. Visit us today at crossborderinterviews.ca. Mayor, thank you so much for sitting down with me and discussing this very important discussion ahead of the upcoming AMM convention in Winnipeg. Swan River has been at the sort of forefront of trying to raise awareness around sharps and needles in their community. Before we get into the crux of the interview, can you just describe the impact that improperly discarded sharps and needles has had on the safety and well-being of the residents in your community?
Yes, thank you, Chris. And we, in the last, probably at least in the last year, maybe more so in the last 6 months, we've seen a huge amount of needles being discarded in playgrounds and in places where people worship, places in back alleys, sometimes on streets, corners, or little places where people can, do this. I guess if you want to say injecting whatever into them using the needles, and they're leaving them in storefronts and all that. So it's becoming a huge problem.
And what do you mean by large amount? Because that could be 10,000, that could be 200, depending on what your analogy of large amount is. So
Yeah.
from your perspective, what is the large amount that you're seeing on the ground?
Well, I'll paint the picture a little bit more for you. We learned back in August the 6th from the folks from Harm Reduction that they were distributing approximately 250,000 needles in this community, and we actually had another meeting shortly after that, and the number is closer to 500,000 needles. So I'm not saying that all of those are littered in these places, but a fair amount were being littered in these places that I had mentioned. So it's a huge number. So this is the alarm bells, I guess you can say, that we've been trying to get those involved or responsible to help deal with this situation.
Has Swan River become sort of with a population of just correct me if I'm wrong here, of a roughly about 4,000 people, 500,000 needles or sharps being administered or being rolled out, if you want to say that there's the disparity there. Are you seeing more people from the surrounding areas come into Swan River to get this a harm reduction, if as the province would call it?
Yeah, the well, let's go back to the 500,000 now. Yes, Swan River is about 4,000 people, but we have a large area as well. As you know, trading area about 15,000. And so there is other communities and populations, outside the town. So this is not specifically just in the town. And the we're finding out now from them that there are other people that are coming into the community, even as far as Saskatchewan, because we are close to the Saskatchewan border. They tell us that they have individuals that are coming across the border as well.
So with a small population, and I say small in the grand scheme of things, 4,000 is a large urban town. What does the municipality do today to address this issue? Because when I was up in Swan River just recently, actually back in October, I was at one of the local coffee shops. It was McDonald's, not a coffee shop, but I had a conversation because I'm one of those people that likes to ask people questions. And one of the things that I heard was it's getting overbearing. The crime is just getting rampant and the needles are just being put everywhere. What is the municipality doing right now to address this issue while you're waiting for the province to kind of come to the plate?
Well, again, this we kind of sounded the alarm bells after our August the 6th meeting with Harm Reduction and Prairie Mountain Health, the Regional Health Authority, and since then, they've kind of come together and to grips and saying, okay, you know what, it's not a municipality issue. This is an issue that they need to deal with. So I want to say that that has been kind of an ongoing thing. We've had some discussions with how this is going to be dealt with, and how the needles could be, gathered and picked up. I think that has gone a little bit better as far as we're seeing less of the needles being littered, but it's still, it's still an issue, especially now with winter coming and kids playing snow, and you don't want something like that to happen, because some people have been, poked. Some people that were in work situations or and been in buildings where there has been some needles that have been used, and people have been poked. So as far as the municipality goes, this is not a responsibility of the municipality. And we made that very clear to the province that we are not. The minister has come out and said, yes, we agree with you. It is not your responsibility. They're trying to work on some kind of solutions on dealing with the needles and the collection of the used needles. But we will continue on pressing. Now they do have a sharp committee, and they have different people that are on this committee, mainly people that are part of the harm reduction, and I think a few people from CMHE as well, and Prairie Mountain Health. So there is a group that are trying, to deal with this. But you mentioned the needles, you mentioned the crime, and you mentioned everything else. This is a whole bunch of things that we're finding in our community that are colliding together. We're talking about, if it's mental health issues, we're talking about the distribution of drugs, trafficking, and then of course the needles that are kind of go with that, and then the additional crime. And so these are all things that are all kind of colliding on us, and we're bringing awareness to the province, and we're lobbying really hard to help come up with strategies to deal with some of these issues, because it's hard for a small town of 4,000 people to have to see this every single day. If you live in the city of Winnipeg, where it's happening in a corridor, and I'm not saying it's any better, but maybe the people in different parts of the city would never see this kind of thing happening, and people are seeing this right on their doorsteps nearly every single day. So this is a big concern, and I know that this is not only Swan River. This is other communities. I've spoke with the mayor from the Paw and Dauphin and other communities, and they say the kind of some of the same thing. We are just right now, we're bringing this to the province's attention that we need support. We need help to deal with these issues, all these issues.
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate with you for a second, if you don't mind here, Mayor, because you're right. This is not a municipal issue, but you're on the front lines of this. And until the province steps up and actually does a concrete action to address this issue, to get the needles off the ground and into a safe, disposable area, this issue might exacerbate. What does the municipality have to do today? And I'm saying today, November 18th, as of recording this, to address this issue while waiting for the province to come to the table. Because if actions are much better than words, and right now all you're getting is we have committees, we're working on a solution, but the solution needs to happen 10 days from now, not 10 days ago, not 10 days from now.
It's a really good question. Like what can the municipality do other than, to lobby? We don't have the resources. We're not a large, municipality with the access to, several, say, RCMP officers that can walk the streets and protect the streets. They're doing an amazing job of what they have right now. The municipalities, they're kind of trying to, create some, awareness to this and have people, kind of come up and help a little bit with the individual situations of, if it's needle collection and all that. And some people have, but that's right now the solution. There's no, magic bullet, or, to deal with this. And I wish I had that answer for you. I really do. And it's not like we've been dealing with this for just a couple months. We've been dealing with this for maybe 3 or 4 years, and different. It kind of comes up and down a little bit if it's needles or if it's break-ins or if it's crime or petty theft and all that kind of stuff. So we try to do the best. We work with the RCMP. We have communications on a regular basis with them, but we just don't have the resources to deal with a lot of these issues. And this is why we're putting a little bit of pressure on the provincial government, and they are listening to us, and they realize that there are some issues, and they're trying to come up with their own solutions. Even like even they are a larger entity, so to speak, and they have more resources than we have. And even they are having problems to figuring out what and how to deal with these issues.
So what's the silver bullet? What's the thing that if you could wave your magic wand and this issue would be fixed tomorrow, what would you want the province or even the health networks to do tomorrow to address and fix this issue? Because as much as I hate to say this, litter is going to happen. Even if you have safe disposable sites and people put their needles away, people are still going to litter their needles. And it happens in smaller communities who don't have this exacerbated issue like Swan River does, but it is happening and it will happen. So what would you want the province and the health networks to do tomorrow to be the first step in solving this issue?
Well, a lot of people here in the community are asking for the province to remove harm reduction and needle distribution completely in the community. I don't know if they would do that or not, but I know that
Do
there's
you
some
agree with
pressure to do
them?
that. Right now, I do. I think, and the reason why I say it is because there's no solution to you hand out needles to people that have a problem, and the problem is that they have addiction problems. So what are we doing with that problem with addictions? And then what are the solutions for that? Because you just, if you keep giving that person the needles to, and they're living in that state, and there's no help for them to come out of that, into that, out of that state, then really, what are we doing? What's the goals of that? And it's inevitable, I'm sure, that these people will eventually die. And is that what we're trying to do? And I know that's pretty blunt, but the thing is, it's the truth. And when you talk about silver bullets or whatever, but you have to start to deal, in my opinion, dealing with the trafficking. Let's start clamping down and finding these people who the heck are, in our communities, selling drugs or taking the needles and refilling them for the individuals, and then they injecting themselves, and that just snowballs out of control. Dealing with the drug trafficking, the drugs on the streets and all that, and having tougher crimes or the laws on or punishments on people that are doing that sort of thing. And the next thing is having some help for these individuals. Just don't forget about them at the end of the day. You work from 8 to 4 o'clock handing out a needle to somebody, and then at nighttime they're on their own. And what are they doing? And so they need some kind of support, and they need help, and if that means rehab facilities, which I know the province, the federal government has not spent a lot of money on developing those plans. But my question is obviously, what's the plan for them and their addictions? Because if we keep doing this over and over again, we're not going to get out of this.
I hate to ask the harsh question, but I'm going to have to in this conversation. Do people in Swan River feel safe right now?
Well, you know what? There's some areas of town that people definitely don't. I have spoke with some people that say that they will not walk down in the park at night. I think that I would be probably feel the same way too, in the dark areas or whatever. But and there's other people that feel that they're okay. They would be a little bit more cautious about it. But I think that for the most part, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to community safety, and it's a sad thing because that like that's one thing that we rely on in small places and communities is where we are safe and we feel that we shouldn't have to worry too much about what's coming out at them, in the dark or whatever.
You talk about this being a multi-prong issue, and it's not just sharps and needles being disregarded, but it's also mental health and addictions. It's also crime. It's also safety. Now, that is a multifaceted jurisdictional issue. That is not just a provincial, municipal. It is also a federal issue. Have you had conversations with anyone in the federal government or with your federal MP to make sure that this issue is addressed at the federal level, or are you more focused at the provincial level right now because you're so close to your upcoming AMM convention?
No, we have, well, we've been lobbying really hard on the provincial government, obviously because of the crime factors that we were dealing with earlier in the year, the needle thing, obviously through harm reduction, the province and the PMH. But no, we have been lobbying. We've had a lot of discussion with our MP, Dan Mazer, who has done an outstanding job. In fact, last year they did a petition to encourage the province or the federal government to work on solutions on crime strategies. And I think that actually all fell on deaf ears in the House. It's unfortunate. Yes, I have communicated with the Minister of Public Safety and also the Justice Minister, and but with very little communication coming back to us. It's very unfortunate, and they must realize that there's a big problem in this country, not only in Swan River, and how we're going to deal with the issues of safety and crime in all our communities.
We are on the cusp of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities convention, which is kicking off on Monday in Winnipeg. What are you hoping to hear from the cabinet ministers and the premier around this issue? Because they did release a sort of a strategy addressing crime and safety in communities on the 14th of November. But this is your time to actually be in person, face to face with them once again, but on a larger scale with your other municipal leaders. What are you hoping to hear from them at the upcoming convention?
Well, first of all, I would hope the delegates in communities that are dealing with these issues are doing the same thing that we will do or are doing. But as far as what we're going to hear from the province and from the ministers and from the premier, is that I feel that we need to come up. So they must start talking about how to deal with people that have addictions, but the crime, because it's just not a good thing for all our communities. It's not good for economic development is another thing, but I'm certainly hoping that they will have some discussion or some really fruitful discussion on how we're going to deal with these issues of crime, and I know that we're going to hear some announcements from the province to on their crime strategy that they released last Thursday. I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more about that in detail. They did talk about in that report, and I've been saying this for a little while now, is it's time to get tough on crime, and I'm really interested to see what that means, because I think that needs to be some changes to some of the legislation too, to deal with some of the people that are creating this big problem in our country and our communities even across our province, and I just think that they're need to hear this loud and clear from all our delegates. I certainly hope that the province does hear about that loud and clear, but we need to have some kind of a message on how we're going to get tough on crime. I think that's one of the biggest things. But like I said, also dealing with the individuals that are suffering from the effects of addictions. It's truly a sad thing.
This issue, and it was brought to my attention because the resolutions that you're going to be debating at the upcoming AMM convention, and this resolution around sharps and needles in communities is Resolution 14. And in it, along with LaPaw, the Mayor Andre Murphy, and yourself, in the resolution, it states about the financial burden that this issue has had on municipalities. Can you point to a specific example of where your municipal has diverted resources that might have gone to other priorities to this issue?
Good question. And one of the things definitely is going to be on some law enforcement that is going to cost us more money. Certainly, the cost of policing has gone up like everything else has. So that's probably our biggest cost. And in fact, if the council is looking at doing any other policing or community safety officers and so forth, that is going to also be a huge cost. I think that's part of the big cost. There's some other small costs that are involved, but more so with enforcement for our communities.
So I want to look to the future because I hate to always seem like everything's going wrong in the world, which it's not. Things are going right. What's your hope for 2025 around this issue? Are you hoping that in the next few weeks, after the announcement from the government, there's going to be a solution that 2025 will start off on a good note and you could move forward and address this issue in a sustainable way where people feel safe in the community of Swan River again?
I absolutely hope that I, you know, the, I really believe that now that we're, having these discussions with the province and hopefully the federal government will join us on this as well at some point in time. But I really think that if we start working together a little bit more and to discuss the solutions, and I know those don't come easy. We didn't get these problems in our communities overnight. These problems came over periods of different events and over time. And I think that we need to start to have some better just conversation on with the provincial government, with all our communities, and I include also with our First Nation partners as well, because there's a lot of issues with all our peoples in our communities, and I certainly hope that we can work on something, because you can't keep letting people live this way, and we need to come out of this at some point in time, and I hope that 2025 is going to be the start of that, and I feel confident will be.
Where do you see it being most effective? Is it just the safety of your people, or is it the fact that this program would not be utilized anymore in Swan River? So what's your hope? Is it just that potentially people getting these needles is not going to happen in 2025, or just people start feeling safe? What is a bigger priority for you right now?
I want everybody to feel safe, and I want all of that to happen. But I would like to see a reduction of harm reduction of the needle distribution. I don't want to hear in 2025 that they handed out 500,000 needles. They need to have a goal, and I would hope that that agency would say, in 2025, our goal is that we're only going to hand out 100,000 needles, and we're going to deal with some of the individuals that need help the most.
We have talked about a lot in the last 25 minutes, but what's your message to delegates at the AMM convention, to the residents of Swan River, or even to the people who are listening to this and saying, if you think this is just happening in Swan River, think again, because it's probably happening in a lot of municipalities across Manitoba. What's your message to people today?
Well, thanks. And my message, I would hope that, when we're at the convention or if people are listening to this video, pay attention to what's happening in your communities. If it's not happening in your community or you're not seeing it right now, then you may not know about it. And you need to bring this to light. We need people to lobby hard to the provincial and federal governments on how we're going to deal with all the issues of, safety and crime, because we just cannot continue on with this. This is costing a lot of money, not only in law enforcement, enforcement with municipalities or whatever else, but it's costing, people, their only safety and well-being of the individual people. It's costing store owners the cost of, extra security, and protection of employees. It's costing us jobs because there's a lot of young people that they don't want to work, or their parents don't want them to be working in stores because they feel that they're not safe to be working in these stores. So I think that we need to all work together and bring this message forward, because Swan River, I think, is doing a good job. It's not, I don't feel great about the fact is that we have to paint this picture of the people thinking, gosh, like Swan River is not a safe place. But there are parts of Swan River that may be not completely safe, but we need to work together, because there's a lot of communities are just like here. And I've spoke with a lot of other municipal leaders, mayors and reeves, and they've told me the same thing. They said, gosh, we're having the same problems here, and we're bringing it forward. The PA Mayor, Andre Murphy, and I have had lots of conversation about this. We're working together on that. We're going to have a press conference actually at the beginning of the AMM on Monday morning, and we're going to be talking about this a little bit more. And we want other municipalities, and I don't care if they're from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, BC, or Alberta, or wherever they are in this country, but we need to bring these issues forward, and we need the provincial and the federal governments to start listening to us.
We will be live at the AMM convention. We'll be covering that press conference live as well. So head over to our YouTube channel and check that out, because it is an important issue, not just for Manitoba municipalities, but all all municipalities across Canada. But I will leave on this note, because you're right. I don't want to paint Swan River as in a bad picture, because I was just, like I said, I was up in Swan River just recently and I felt safe. It was a great community. People wanted to chat with me, so I was very much appreciative of that. So if you ever find yourself up in that area of Manitoba, head over to Swan River, because friendly people, and one of the best swans that you'll ever see on the side of the road that is just randomly in the middle of a parking lot. So there's my little pitch for Swan River, Lance. Mayor Jacobson, thank you so much for sitting down with me today, and I look forward to meeting you again in person at the AMM convention, and hopefully before the convention is done, we will have a follow-up conversation about what you heard at the convention. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, you're right. Swan River is a really great place, and the valley is a wonderful place to visit and see a lot of wonderful attractions. So don't let this little thing right now that we're dealing with not make you feel that you should come and visit us, because we would love to have you all here too.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Just want to remind you, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Just want to remind you also, as we mentioned in the interview, we will be at the upcoming AMM convention, which kicks off on Monday. So next week, we will be in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, covering the AMM convention. So we will have amazing coverage of that on all of our social media pages, and a few future episodes when we return to our studio later on next week. So if you haven't already, reminder, hit that subscribe button and stay informed, stay engaged. And we'll be back with a brand new episode next week here on Municipal Affairs. Till then, everyone.